Yeah, hi folks. Yes, the other day in an interview with Michael Laws on the platform, Richard Prebble said Three Waters is a coup. And he's right. It's not a military coup, but it's a coup nonetheless. The Collins Dictionary defines it as when, quote, a group of people seize power in a country, unquote. And that's exactly what's happening in New Zealand with Three Waters and Maori wards on councils. And of course, Mahuta knows it's a coup, so she now plays the victim.
I want to talk about your family. ACT leader David Seymour and National MP Simeon Brown have questioned members of your family receiving government contracts in the time that you have been a government minister. Have you ever had an undeclared or mishandled conflict of interest as a cabinet minister?
I've had a situation over these number of years to really consider my family obligations. So I have declared conflicts. They've been managed appropriately and in accordance with the cabinet manual, certainly since I've been a minister. And the challenge for me, I guess, is just how toxic the attacks have been.
So I suppose it's toxic, or it was toxic for me and others to report this corruption that's going on.
Because even though I say that, and even though, there's been a lot of OIAs and things like that, the level of toxicity of the attacks have been really challenging to manage. But again, I come from a family that since the time of my father, he negotiated the first treaty settlement, got similar targets against him personally. Also my mother, who negotiated the Waikato River claim and the co-governance arrangements there. Now, because I'm pushing through a set of reforms that I think will have beneficial impacts for the environment and for people long term, and that is in the area of water reform. These are all issues that have challenged the nation. I think some of the attacks have been targeted at the individual rather than the issue. But in terms of conflicts of interest, again, I've declared conflict of interest. They've been managed appropriately and in accordance with the Cabinet Manual.
I know politics is a mucky business at the best of times, but can I ask, in what ways have you felt the attacks have been toxic?
Well, I've stopped looking at them now, but there have been politically aligned advocacy groups that have said things and created a perception that have been harmful, unkind and damaging, leading to cartoons and memes.
Now, this is from a National Party page. Dumb and Dumber. Now, I wouldn't say Dumb and Dumber, but I would say deceitful and more deceitful. For Reda Dern and Maori separatist Nana, every day is a no-brainer. We're here to put racism under new management. That's for sure. They're manufacturing more racism every day.
In social media posts, in commentary which you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy, actually. And when I think about that, I think to myself, well, actually, on the issues that I'm promoting, I'm happy to be held accountable on issues. But when you have criticisms coming from dark corners, closed rooms, people who hide behind pseudonyms, and they're politically motivated and they are attached to political parties, I think you've got to look to some internal fortitude as to the reason, why that's happening. I don't think it's a reflection of our society, a true reflection. I think by and large, New Zealanders are fair-minded. They do want transparency and accountability, and as a politician, I accept that. I accept that. But when you go to a level of toxic trolling and use of social media to push a certain narrative, to create a certain perception, I worry about that. Not just for myself, but for the future and health and well-being of a lot of people who do really difficult things that may not be popular, but they're necessary for the benefit of people.
No, for the benefit of your people. Your people. Not for everyone. Tell the truth. Now to Michael Laws and Richard Prebble.
Hey, you've written this article in New Zealand Herald this morning, and essentially you're arguing that that Three Waters is a coup, that it is, and you mean that in the proper sense of the word. You go on to also say that almost without debate, we're undergoing the biggest constitutional change since 1840, and those who question the wisdom of that change are being silenced by accusations of being racist. What prompted you to write the article?
Well, I actually went to see the film Fina. My other half bought tickets, and as I said there, I knew Fina Cooper. And why would I want to go and see a movie? But you never win those arguments with your partner.
No.
So we went to the movie, and actually it's surprisingly good. I don't know why I should say surprisingly, but it was a good movie. And the projection of Fina, which I thought would be characterised in today's politics, was actually valid. And I knew it quite well. My first wife, who's no longer, who's died, she probably knew Fina even better than I did. But the point I was going to make is that what made me think about what would Fina think of the government's present treaty policies, and I have no doubt in my mind at all that she would not agree with them. The idea that the treaty suddenly enables a number of iwi tribes to co-govern the country was a concept that Fina never put to me. I'd never heard her say it. And in the film, they also had Sir Aparananata. And the portrayal of him was correct. Nata was the first Maori lawyer. He's probably the most distinguished Maori politician we've ever had. And he wrote about the treaty. And he also would not agree that the treaty meant that we were going to be co-governed by some iwi tribes who how they selected their people is a bit of a mystery, but it's certainly not one person, one vote. And the point I'm making in this article is that Three Waters, when you go and read the cabinet papers, the argument that Maori should co-govern our water and drainage and sewerage system is purely based on this government's radical reinterpretation of the treaty. And it's a coup. That's never been passed by the courts. It's never been agreed to by the voters. It was never put forward by the Labour Party in its manifesto. And I personally like the idea of New Zealand being a liberal democracy. I like the idea that everybody's vote's equal. And I suspect that not only most New Zealanders, but most Maori actually are in favour of one vote, one person.
Exactly.
This is just it's a coup.
Earlier today, Richard, I had on the Race Relations Commissioner, Meng Foon,
Yes.
and talked to him about how he was influencing local government New Zealand. They've just put out a 7-page guideline on campaigning for candidates. And one of the things he said is, well, he was absolutely unabashed about it. He said, well, if there aren't separate Maori seats on councils for Maori, then Maori have no value. And he's been pushing that agenda, and local government New Zealand seems to have accepted it. It's coming from a variety of quarters, this particular campaign, isn't it?
It is, but it's also nonsense.
Yes.
I live in Rotorua, and the Rotorua Council enthusiastically adopted Maori wards, and then the councils, after they'd done it, did some maths and actually realised that Maori wards will result in fewer Maori being on the council than we have at the moment. About half the councillors at the moment are Maori. And if you have a Maori ward, they did the maths and worked it out, so then they put up a bill to Parliament, which the Labour Party was pushing through, which would actually mean that every Maori, my Maori neighbours, in in this valley would have a more valuable vote than mine, but not all Maori. Only those Maori who are on the Maori roll. And about half of all Maori in Rotorua choose to be on the general roll, and their vote would be discounted too. I mean, the whole thing's a nonsense. And the Attorney General was forced to give advice to Parliament that it's actually contrary to the principle of one person, one vote, but it does show the dark road that we're on. It's the logic of what we're on, and I think where it's really going to come back and bite the public is in health. There's never going to be enough money for health. Never has been, never will be. There are more treatments that people would like and are desirable than the taxpayer can pay for. And so we actually have a system of rationing. Politicians don't like to say that, but we do. And the rationing at the moment is based on need. So those people who have more pain than you, they go higher on the list. But having a Maori Health Authority, the logic of that is that rationing is going to be based on race.
But that's happening already.
Well, I think that's apartheid.
Of course it is.
We thought it was wrong in South Africa. It's wrong in New Zealand. And the idea, I mean, sure, Maori health outcomes are, speaking generally, a disgrace.
Can I ask you, Richard?
Hang on, can I just finish this point? Just analyse it though. It's actually based on poverty. If you go and have a look at the health outcomes of poor whites, and there are many poor whites in New Zealand, their health outcomes are just as bad as they are for poor Maori. You don't have to use race.
But the left has to use race because they're constantly manufacturing racism every day, and they're constantly manufacturing homophobia every day because they want the following for New Zealand.
They were like automatons. But what I couldn't work out is why they wouldn't arrest me, seeing as I was the criminal. But what they did was they went to a man who admittedly had a long service record and served our country with great courage. But it really panicked him. He was very stressed and upset when he contacted us. So I thought, okay, you want to come and mess and intimidate and harass and actually shake down was essentially what they wanted to do to the guy. They wanted to charge him 60 quid to re-educate himself.
Well, yeah, this is a fascinating point, Lawrence, because it is very much like a shakedown. They go there, they're all standing around him, and they're saying to him, we're going to prosecute you unless you agree to pay £60 and attend re-education class so that your incorrect views can be trained out of you and you won't have this problem again.
Well, this is why when we did turn up, we provided them with dispute resolution forms from the Bad Law Project. And we were only going to charge them £100 if they signed them and give them free sandwiches to come to London, and we'd explain what the law is and how they enforce it. But for some reason, they refused to sign those or come on our course.
And you say they're like automatons in that because I have a sort of sentimental view, and I think back to village constables of decades ago, and I can't imagine them going along with anything like this. But these guys just do it unthinkingly?
I think they were unthinking. I think the female police officer in particular they were panicked, which is what we didn't want to panic them. We wanted to give them a dose of their own medicine. You don't go people in this country should not fear having their doors knocked on for sharing a meme.
Yeah, especially the meme that he shared first.
No. The Hampshire Police would realise how ridiculous this is. It is. Of course. I'm trying to come to this.
What did it need to come to?
Tell us why you escalated it to this level, because I don't understand. I posted something that he posted. You come to arrest me. You don't arrest him. Why has it come to this? Why am I in cuffs? Because of something he shared, then I shared.
Because someone has been caused, obviously, anxiety.
Because someone has been caused anxiety. Based
upon your social media post.
based on your social media post. Anxiety. Unbelievable. And there's more, folks.
A perfectly peaceful war veteran is being handcuffed for a Facebook post by a politically motivated police force. He's being handcuffed. He's not resisted. He's not done anything. This is a man who served our country, and you people are a disgrace serving an ideology that you're doing. This is an ordinary human being.
I think you're tyrants. I think you should not be doing this. You're infringing my human rights and my freedom of speech under Section 8 and 10 of the ECHR.
You have to give them a search.
Yeah.
You've got an evidence there.
Yeah, I've got.
They don't care. They just don't care. They don't care. They don't care. They're brown shirts.
Oh, no.
Is this the Gestapo? Seriously?
Yeah, he's the Gestapo.
This is how it began. This is the Gestapo, the Stasi, the Checker, every political police force has ever existed.
That's exactly what people in occupied Nazi Germany and whatnot saying. These people.
We're in 1937, 38 pretty much.
They're just, all they're doing is proving the point.
Yeah,
that's all they're doing is they're proving the point. And they're all going to be famous as a result of it. Bullying, harassment, intimidation.
Anything like that you need to with?
No.
Don't need money or a charge or anything like that?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Do you have numbers written down somewhere of people you want to
They're in my
with?
head.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm a
Right.
British Army veteran.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
you should not be
absolutely
doing this to me.
fine.
I expect my freedom of speech. Yeah, this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. Look what you're doing in front of all my neighbours. Really? Seriously?
For a Facebook post.
For a Facebook post?
It's not the aim, is it? We would
Well,
have
you've
happily
done it.
walked out.
You're doing it.
You didn't have to come and knock on. You didn't need to have to come on his
Why
door
don't
and
you display me in
intimidate
front of my
him.
neighbours?
You didn't need to have to come and knock on his door on a Sunday morning and intimidate him.
Now
when he hasn't done anything
it's
wrong.
wait here so my neighbours can see me.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks for that.
You're more than welcome to it around
Right,
there.
let's
as well.
go. Yeah.
Oh well, finally some compassion. Thank you, officer.
You're very welcome.
You got a flag on the back there. People died and fought for that. And you're representing something that this country does not stand for at all. You should take that flag off and put a different flag on it. The one that you're arresting him
I
for.
expect a response. You're unfortunately not going to get one from me.
I don't want a response from you. I'm not. This isn't about you. This is about what's going on in the police, and it's about what's going on to innocent, normal civilians in this country who are being bullied and antagonised by a politicised police force.
Now, folks, we've already seen police harassment in New Zealand, but never for anxiety. But without question, Ardern wants to silence all opposing speech, so this stupidity is on its way. Anyway, folks, I posted the main links below.